A quick heads up before we start today's episode. We're teaming up with Rockwell Automation for a live session on modernization on March 4th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll break down how plant packs can help food and beverage manufacturers upgrade aging equipment, improve visibility without major downtime. Save your spot at etechgroup.com. We'll also have a link in the episode description. And speaking of the food and beverage industry, today's episode will do a deep dive in this industry, learn about what our team is seeing and hearing in the field. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Welcome to Beyond Tech, where innovation meets insight. I'm your host, Jackie Slaght. I bring curiosity, clarity, and a passion for technology-driven storytelling to every conversation. Jen is unfortunately out sick today, so I'm going to try to hold down the fort while she recovers. I am joined today by two industry experts from eTech Group. Randy Ruano leads the West Coast team and brings decades of experience in automation and process controls for major food and beverage manufacturers. Alongside him is Casey Noonan. Casey is the Vice President of Business Development and has helped countless producers implement advanced technologies to drive smarter, more connected operations. Randy and Casey are going to share their insights on trends shaping the food and beverage industry and why digital transformation isn't just changing the game, it's essential to stay in the game. We'll also explore how preparing for and harnessing AI is becoming one of the most critical strategies for manufacturers looking to remain competitive in 2026 and beyond. So thank you, Randy and Casey, for joining us today. Let's get into it. So from your guys' perspective, what trends are shaping the food and beverage industry as we head into 2026, especially in the agriculture and beverage production? Randy, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Yeah. So we've seen in terms of trends, I'd say a little bit of a drop on alcohol consumption has been going on, at least here on the West Coast. And in terms of like the wine industry, however, spirits have picked up a bit. So it's kind of interesting, I think, just the consumer choices switching from wine into spirits. We've seen a lot of that going on. Too, with the different kind of weather patterns we've had, some of the harvesting has been moved around a little, not dramatically, but just a tiny bit. So I've been seeing some of that. Casey?
Yeah, so you touched on some of the industry trends. I'd say on the technology side, we're seeing a lot more investment in getting data and infrastructure to get that data. Clients right now are looking at ways to improve their processes, reduce their costs. For example, if they have a bottling line, right now they're trying to figure out, how can I increase my throughput of this bottling line? And a lot of manufacturers right now don't have the capabilities to pinpoint that data, pull that data, and find out where that issue is. And so what we're going to start seeing is more investment in being able to get that data, which is legacy migrations, up to newer platforms that have that data throughput capability. And then also wrapping that with security to make sure that, they can connect their shop floor up to their corporate level, right? To be able to see that data and make sure that it's secure.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've had a few of these industry conversations now. It seems like across the board that getting the data is important and getting everything connected is critically important. But with that comes the increase in security vulnerabilities that they also need to be aware of and protect from. How do they balance that kind of, we want to update, but we don't want to open ourselves up to vulnerabilities? Is there, I guess, advice you would give for a manufacturer experiencing that?
Why don't you take this one, Randy? Go ahead.
Yeah, looking at how control systems were back in the day compared to how they are now, we never really cared about the internet. It didn't really matter because we were segregated from the internet. It was just kind of more of a in operations thing, where now we're fully connected from the shop floor all the way up through, and a lot of our customers anyway are moving into the MES layer. So they're gathering data from the shop floor, they're pushing down recipes, they're getting information to understand how they're operating. Well, now the systems are connected from top to bottom, right? So we've seen a lot of customers invest into cyber and OT security. They've done a lot of hiring of OT security experts, and they've also brought us in to help with it. So one of the things that we've been doing is actually doing assessments going into different facilities and assessing what their current install base is in terms of just hardware and where their vulnerabilities could be. And then we make recommendations as to how to harden their systems so that they don't have to have those worries, and they can sleep better at night knowing that they have a strong, secure system to back them up, even though it's now connected from the shop floor all the way to the top.
Yeah, and I would echo that. Yeah, I mean, really where you want to start is where you're at. And to understand that, you come in and do an assessment and find out all the assets you have And then from there, build a roadmap.
How else, aside from like kind of the connection between the manufacturing process and the data they can get from it, how else can automation help producers meet the growing demands for, I would say sustainability is something that we've been hearing about. And I think there are some manufacturers that are more focused on that than others, but how can automation help them reach goals and demands for sustainability and transparency? Randy, you want to take this one?
Sure. So we've seen a lot where some of our customers used to maybe have scrap, and now they've started to use some of the new technology along with AI to figure out where what used to be scraps now they can use as to maybe convert it to a different material or reclaim it so that they can, like I said, create different things with it, or even possibly give it away as food or something for like animals, or to create animal food and stuff like that. So we've seen some of that going on.
Yeah, I go back to the data is king. When you look at the energy side of things, so if you can gather the data for how much energy you're using at specific times, and that could be steam, could be, it could be power, and then seeing what's happening on the operation side to make sure that you are, balancing your load usage with your operations. We run into situations where customers have big, giant power bills, and because they're running things that don't need to be running when they're not producing. That's one side of it. The other side is the waste side, which Randy was touching on there too, which is if you can get the data and understand how much product you're putting in at the front end, how much is coming out the back end, and find that where's the waste in between and how do we reduce that? So maybe you have an issue with weights, maybe you have an issue with the defect or with a labeler. And if you're able to pinpoint where that product's getting rejected and how much, you can then pinpoint that problem faster and reduce your waste too.
We have seen at least 3 or 4 different instances where customers, Casey was touching on some of the waste. They're finding that they truly don't have waste. They just have another product that becomes like a byproduct of what they're running. And then they take that byproduct and convert it into something that's profitable. So we've seen that going on as well. So there's almost like no waste is where they're getting to, like a no waste type situation where they take these byproducts, convert it into a whole new product, and then boom, they're selling that. So it's pretty cool.
That does sound very, very cool. What kind of innovations are you guys seeing in specifically within agriculture automation that are kind of like, I guess, new technologies that they're implementing into their processes? This is something that I don't know very much about, but I'm still picturing a farmer driving a tractor through the fields. But are there other?
No, so I've seen some really cool stuff here. So where Casey and I are, we're like in the breadbasket of the states, I guess, here in California, right? I think it's like 80% of the almonds that feed the states come out of California, not to mention everything else that's grown here in the Central Valley. So we see a lot of kind of what's going out there, and we get to speak with a lot of growers and stuff. And some of the stuff I've seen being implemented is super cool in terms of like with you're talking about tractors. I've seen some stuff where they're using automated tractors where they might be autonomous and may not be somebody in the tractor, right?
Wow.
Some stuff like that. I don't think that they're using it like 100%, but they're trialing things out. So that's pretty cool. And then also the way they're doing different sensing and weighing and stuff. So they're collecting product and then at the same time weighing it and sensing it and sizing it so that they don't have to do it in other places before. Because it used to be you pick all these things up and then you have to then send it to a site where then it gets sized and weighed and everything, where now they do it as they're picking. So we've even seen some of that kind of stuff. And that's all through the use of, sensor technology, AI, stuff like that.
Yeah. And then on the receiving end, once it gets to a facility and they bring in the trucks, we'll do a lot of genealogy and track and trace. So they're able to find out which farm that it was picked from, what lot it was picked from, and then be able to associate that through the whole process. Provides 2 benefits. Companies that pay the growers based on yield of the product that they provide. And then also if there's any issues down the line too, they're able to track back for any recalls. So they're able to not have to recall months and months worth of product, but they could pin it all the way back to the farm it came from.
It's very cool. Are you seeing anything with I imagine, and I am not from California, so I don't know other than what I hear on the news, how important the water usage is. Have we seen anything with smart irrigation for farms, or is that pretty common now or no?
Yeah, it's pretty common, I'd say, smart irrigation for sure. And the water here in California is crucial. I mean, we've seen some crazy droughts in the last few years, and luckily we've had a lot of rain the last few years as well. So That part's been really good for us, but definitely a lot of smart irrigation, timing, weather patterns. If it's going to rain, obviously don't use water. You don't have to, right? And then when to use it, how to use it, and at what times. So yeah, that's definitely a thing, Jackie, here in California.
Sounds very cool. Like I said, I'm not very familiar with anything for agriculture other than buying it in the store. So this is all very cool. One of the things I have listened to, I think it was someone from your team was on a different podcast talking about how manufacturers can switch the flavors now quicker and create new kind of customized flavors. But how are you guys seeing companies leveraging the data to optimize their flavor profiles? And then I think you already touched on how they reduce waste and improve throughput.
Yeah, so I don't know on the marketing side how they decide what flavors people like more of, but on the automation side and production side, it comes back to, like you mentioned, having the right data and understanding, okay, well, how much of this product do we need to run, and being able to schedule out less changeovers so you can be more efficient. So a lot of times Randy was talking earlier too about integrating with the MES system and their ERP systems to be able to figure out, okay, I need to run 10 different types of products this week. How do we do that based on when we need to ship these most efficiently, so we're not having to do changeovers back and forth between the different recipes?
Randy, anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, to Casey's point, we've seen it just not only with like fruits and vegetables or nuts, but we've also seen it in the beverage industry where they want to be able to move quickly, right? So it's been key to be able to digitize and send information from top to bottom. And we talked about it earlier, how a lot of customers are moving into the MES layer, so they're able to get their schedules in and understand, okay, this is the product run we need to do. And then right after that, put another product run behind that one and do it quickly. So if they finish one product, they download the new product, they clean, make sure it's good, and then immediately they're up and running on the next product, right? And all that's being done through digitization of no longer are people, walking around with clipboards and all that. They're with iPads, they're loading information from top to bottom onto their devices on the floor, and then making the changeovers a lot faster so that they can produce more product and get it out the door.
Yeah, Randy brought up a good point about the cleaning too. So being able to automate your cleaning processes saves you a ton of time. That's a good point.
Yep.
Yeah, I've spoken with Hans. He taught me all about clean and place system.
Plugging that one too. We'll go out to your facility and we'll watch it run, and we'll tell you if there's any wasted time, right? And if we can cut the time down and gain you more production time, that's also a plus.
I've heard you mention it a few times, but just for anyone else listening, can you explain what an MES system is and kind of how it essentially connects all the parts of the manufacturing process, right? Or like the whole facility.
Yeah. And so I'm going to do it at my level, which is like you're like a little older and I might not have all the facts. So it's a management execution system. And basically what it does, it connects your ERP system through some middleware software and then all the way through to your control components at the line level, right? So where you're actually producing. So say the customer gets an order from their customer, right? From a XYZ customer, they want 20 pounds or 20,000 pounds of a specific nut varietal. They're able to take that information, load it through, and in terms of what weights they're going to need, are they going to need it sliced? Are they going to need it diced? Are they going to need it, pasteurized? What they're going to need, they load it into the equipment, and then the equipment takes that information, sets all the machinery in order to run this product. It runs the product, and while running the product, it also gains information in terms of how much product has gone through the line, what type of weights do they have? What kind of byproducts they're producing? Maybe if they have any losses, right? What does their quality look like all the way to the end of the line where how many cases came out, what got packaged all the way to the end. So they're able to start and complete work orders from beginning to end and collect OEE information across the board for each piece of machinery or an area of a line.
Wow. So really kind of connecting all these and bringing everything in one spot versus programming it all in different layers. Yeah. And
there's also
I can see your brain is turning.
Yeah, I was like,
all the smoke coming out.
There's also a lot of reporting that comes out of that, right? So, you can understand how you're running real time, and if you need to make any changes or If anything goes down, you'll get reason codes as to why the system was down. All right, that's it. Sorry. I just want to make sure I mention that. That and then quality reports. You'll also get quality reports as well.
So one of the things through the other, like I said, I think you guys are like the fourth industry episode that I've worked on, and almost all of them we touch on how important AI is becoming and how much it's being talked about. So where do you see AI and machine learning influencing agriculture and food and beverage production in the next few years, or are you seeing it now in any cases? Casey, you want to kick us off this time?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, right now where we're seeing most investment is getting kind of AI ready, making sure, right, getting that data. Seeing some impact a little bit with some customers right now where they're leveraging AI to determine like utility usage based on production output, and then being able to tune those variables to get the most throughput of their product with the least amount of energy usage. So we're seeing some of that. I'd say right now it's still kind of early on right now in the AI talks and people trying to figure out, okay, we know that there's something there. It's just not quite ready for prime time yet. So there's a lot of different partnerships that we're looking at right now and evaluating those to see which ones could have the biggest impact with our clients here. But there's a lot of people talking about it. And I think in the coming years here, we'll start to see, a bigger push to data, getting the data up into the cloud and then creating that digital twin of your production facility and then being able to layer that with AI to optimize your processes. So that's kind of where I see the future going. It's going fast. It's going very fast. If you look at where AI was in manufacturing a year ago to this year, I think you see a lot of major investments from different companies. And like I said, some people are starting to use them. And I think it's just going to grow exponentially over the next couple of years. So right now, what we're talking to our clients about is making sure that you've got good data, good secure data that we can get up to a layer that we can then apply AI in the future.
Yeah, we have some mature clients that are data rich, that have that started their data journey a lot earlier than others. And so they do have information and they are leveraging AI to their benefit more on like the machine. I've seen some like machine vision stuff with AI where they're looking at product as it runs down. They're understanding their profiles, understanding what product looks like from different vendors as it comes in through them. So that they're gaining a lot of information there. They're looking for defects. They're looking for objects. They're looking for different stuff as they're processing, and AI is allowing them to do that through machine vision and learning.
One of the things I've heard in most of the industry talks that I've had is that AI is a huge topic, but everybody's got to get ready to really have it impact their processes.
Yeah, it's a lot of the large language models right now. So, we do have some clients that are using those to be able to talk to their systems a little bit and get data back from that. So we're seeing a little bit of that too.
So switching gears a little bit, we know everybody wants to use AI. They're not quite ready for it yet. But what other challenges are producers facing today, whether operational or regulatory, or like the just challenges within the market that they're experiencing? Randy, you want to kick this one off? It looks like you were thinking, and I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, so we feel like we've seen a slowdown in food and bev overall. Obviously, food and bev is still growing. I think last I was reading it, at least here on the West Coast, it should grow by 3 to 4% next year, where other years has been a lot stronger. So don't know if consumer demand's down on some products, so that's not helping a little, or maybe they're just trying to save a little bit more. That's kind of the trends I've been reading about and seeing. Casey?
Yeah, I'd say depending on which product you're looking at. So we talked a little bit about the alcohol industry earlier, and people are just not consuming as much alcohol. Right now, you see a lot more of like the smaller startups. You see a lot of different like protein chips and all these kind of different like niche products that are coming out that are kind of cutting into some of the, the larger companies that you see out there. So we're taking on a lot of like smaller customers, I'd say right now. They're trying to work on scaling their output. And then, you got the issues with the tariffs that have been going on too, right? That's had an impact on our farmers as well, which has reduced their spending and capital. So they've been holding on to more cash. Didn't see a lot of investment early in the year when tariffs were hitting. We're starting to see more opening up now, trying to get into the end of the year and spend some of the money that they have left over. What we're seeing for 2026, what we're hearing out there, and as Ray said, what we're reading out there is that we should see an influx of spending again and capital investment after there's a little bit of a pullback this year. So it should be a fairly strong year next year in the food and beverage space.
You mentioned working with some smaller producers. What sort of hurdles do smaller producers encounter when they're trying to implement automation, and what are their options to overcome them?
Yeah, so what I'm seeing is they're newer to automation. So a lot of times what we recommend for these smaller producers is to come in and understand where they want to be in the next few years. And we just start with a front-end engineering design study, a feed study. So go in and look and evaluate because a lot of this stuff kind of manual processes too. So go ahead and understand how they're doing it now and then provide them with some options on how they can proceed moving forward. So balancing the costs and the return and how long that's going to take with them and giving them that flexibility, kind of a joint effort, collaboration to go through that journey. So, are we looking at a fully automated facility? Are you looking to invest, a few $1 million, you invest a couple $100,000 and improve just some of these things that are bothering you guys to be able to get you to that next level. So that's usually where we'll start.
Just a little plug here. We also have an episode on feed studies that Cassie and Chris Slaght talked about, and the experience and the impact a feed study can have. It's pretty incredible and pretty important, especially if not just updating a facility, but starting from scratch. It can be really, really impactful. So I know we've also talked about labor shortages in other episodes. Is that something that you guys are seeing with your clients as well? And is it impacting the choices that they're making in production and distribution of materials? Randy?
Yeah. So we have seen that, especially here in the Central Valley. We actually partnered with Opportunity Stanislaus here locally in Modesto because it was hard to find the right type of people to work on equipment. It wasn't that we didn't have the people. It was just some of the education or the path to get there wasn't there here. And so a lot of people have been joining that group and been being trained, and we're seeing like operators come out of there, mechanics, different types of level technicians. So that's been helpful, but definitely still kind of an issue to try and find the right skilled labor to perform the jobs you need here, especially as the jobs get more technical. Requires different skill sets and different types of training. And I feel like maybe the manufacturing sector is possibly a little more ahead than I would say the education you can get to become, say, like a machine operator or something like that. Whereas now we're starting to put those out, and so people can go take the training classes and start being able to fill those roles. But I know for a while it had been difficult to get those type of people.
Yeah, and we, a lot of our clients are very seasonal for staff. They'll staff up for harvest. So, when you walk into a tomato facility in July versus right now in December, it's a very different look and feel and vibe out there. And so our clients out here for a long time have had issues with being able to staff up seasonal workers and then for those harvests and then going back down to their off-season levels and then bringing in a new set of players the next year. So we're familiar in doing that. We've worked closely with a lot of clients, and how do we be able to get those people up to speed faster on how your equipment operates, so you don't have to go through the training every single year to do that.
Can you guys share an example of where automation was able to improve the consistency or quality in a food and beverage facility? Casey, I'll let you take this one first because it looked like you had an idea right away.
Yeah. He's like, tap me in, coach.
So we have a customer that makes a product. So they have rice that comes in, and then they make a product out of that rice. And to do it, there's a heat, temperature, and time for a press that they use. And so what we helped them do was we put in a vision system that went and monitored the product that was coming through and would be able to detect variables from the ideal product that they're looking for. So if it was a little darker, you'd be able to say, okay, well, maybe this was pressed a little too long, and it would send a notification, and they would be able to then quickly react and resolve that issue, whether they fix the equipment or they shut that one down to be able to not have as much waste while they repaired it. And we saw a big impact very quickly from being able to do that. Before they could run quite some time without knowing if there was any issues, unless somebody was out there and saw it. But being able to put that system in and then get that data from the plant floor up to the office, even to let everyone know, hey, there's an issue, someone needs to go look. And we saw a big return fairly quickly on that one. So that's one example using a vision system.
That would improve the quality and I would think reduce waste because you'd be able to
Mhm.
identify it before a bunch of product went out that then was not usable. So that's a great example. Randy, do you have one that comes to mind?
Yeah, just kind of thinking here. I'm going to go to, so we had a customer that made cakes and they had some issues with trying to get throughput on icing and then putting little florals and like little decorative stuff on cakes. And they looked to robotics to kind of speed up the process. And to this day, they're doing it now where the cakes come in, they get placed in a certain spot, they get the icing, and the robots are doing like all the different stuff. I believe they increased their throughput like by 50% or more by
Wow.
doing that. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
That
Like
would
to be on
great.
quality control for them, right?
Yeah.
We got to try that cake, make sure it's got the right amount of sugar in it.
Yeah. Taste test, quality control.
Yeah, we've also had some pretty cool success automating systems that were like on old mechanical shafts and moving them to servo control, where in instances the throughput grows like we double the throughput, right? By taking it off mechanical systems and putting it on servo systems.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they don't need to put in new vision systems to be able to increase their throughput. A lot of times it's just let us come out and spend some time, right? And take a look at the process, because you'll get micro stops, you'll get, product that's not running at the right speed, where it could be, not your filler could be going too fast and overloading your packaging equipment. And then it would stop your filler, and then it would start your filler, and it would stop your filler. And a lot of times the investment is maybe just some time. You might not need to invest in any hardware.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about, I'd say, especially us here on the West. We've been here, I don't know, over 20, I think like 23, 24 years servicing the Central Valley. So we've seen a lot of different operations, anywhere from cheese making. There's a lot of dairies here. So cheese making, milk, all those different types of dairy products, yogurt, all the way to almonds and walnuts and grapes. And so we're able to go out because we understand, if we've been around for so long, that we can go look at equipment, see how they're operating, and to Casey's point, pinpoint all these different issues that they might be having that they don't even know. It's like, hey, if you moved, added a foot to this piece of machinery or moved, some sensors this way, it could allow you to produce more, not have as many stops, and maybe dial back your line a little bit. Maybe you're running it too fast, and that might be causing some issues. And maybe you just slow it down a little bit. You actually end up getting more product out. So just a bunch of different observations. We could go out there and take a look. Even I think there's even been times where we've added maybe some like components to help bottles stand up and stuff like that. So just because we've had a lot of people that come from the wine industry or just have been in front of cans or whatever, just watching different types of product running through lines, that we understand line flow. We understand how to get bottles and cans filled and off the line, that we know how to address small issues that you might not know you're having, but they're, to Casey's point, creating micro stops.
Solved a lot of problems moving photo eyes just a few inches on our back, right?
Yeah, it's weird. And line speeds too, right? Is very interesting.
We had again, I'm going to go back for a shameless plug here, but we had a support episode that we did that came out around Halloween where I got to talk with Tony.
He's our service manager, and he is an awesome guy. He knows a lot.
Yeah, he was sharing some stories where it was just like kind of that tribal knowledge was lost, and then we were able to come in and kind of retrace their line, get it back up to speed, and have like a manual that could be passed on instead of just hoping that the next person that might come in can figure it out. So that was, again, I learned a lot so much in these episodes just talking with everyone.
It's really interesting because there's a lot of stuff you don't think about when it comes to line flow and line control, especially when it comes to like glass bottles or cans, right? That you don't understand. Like you got to know about friction, you got to know about the distance between each other and how important that is, and how much pressure can be put on the equipment. And there's just a lot of different little nuances that if these things, you can tune the line, where if you don't know these things, you can really mess a line up, right? Like I've seen instances where you get some people that might not know. They're like, well, we need to increase the line speed. And then you're like, oh, you probably shouldn't do that, but they do it anyway. Then their line starts crashing, start having all these problems, right? And then it's like, well, what's going on now? And then you got to go get them back to baseline and kind of educate them on, why the line runs a specific rate. And if you want to increase the line speed, then there's other things that need to change as well. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Are there any emerging technologies that you guys are seeing that you think will be kind of game changers in 2026, or I guess even beyond next year?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, at the beginning of the podcast we were talking about, tractors and farmers and their tractors. I think as we move further in, further into the future, I do believe there's going to be autonomous vehicles, doing farming and moving around in these, hundreds of millions of acres, right, that we have here and being guided through and all that, and which is definitely going to help with, the need for having so many people out there doing specific things. So it'll help with that, right? So then people can be free to do other different jobs, better paying jobs.
Yeah, and I see on the manufacturing side, digital twins. I see that as being the future as more tools come out and AI comes out and is able to reduce the cost of being able to create those digital twins and the speed to market to get those digital twins set up. I think that will be a game changer for a lot of manufacturers.
Yeah, we do have an upcoming episode I just recorded with Cole, who I believe is our digital twin expert.
Yeah.
So that will be coming out. That was an interesting conversation as well.
Lots of plugs in here for you, Jackie.
I know. I feel like I'm doing that more and more, but I can't help it because it does all connect.
I mean, it's all intertwined.
Yeah. So looking, I guess, more just from your perspective, and I know you guys have both been in the industry for I think both of you like more 20 years or so.
Jackie, how old do you think I am?
I've been in the food and bev industry about 25 years or so.
I saw Randy's, but what have you seen change the most in the past decade in food and beverage production?
Honestly, from my perspective, is the digitization of shop floor activity. So like people running around. So I was dating myself, but I was around where, computers were basic. We'd get information, we'd get a bunch of paper, we'd do work orders, and we'd take them to the line. And people would have their paper and they'd have their work orders, and then we'd run against these work orders, right? Where now you walk up to the machine and there's a work order already loaded to the screen, right? And you have to download it, you have to hit run, and you have to go verify, or you have to download it, then verify everything's ready, and then you hit run and you're off and going. There's not someone walking around with a clipboard doing all that stuff, which is interesting because, you lose paper, things happen, you forget, somebody doesn't write something down, then you don't know why the machine was down, all that. And that all stuff, thing of the past now, right? It's all digitized. It's all stored in historians and SQL, and people can get the data whenever they want. So that's changed a lot. So it's allowed people to understand how their systems run, why they were down and what to do next time they go down and how to run better.
And from my perspective, which it touches on what Randy talked about, we're seeing a lot more Ethernet networks and plant connectivity. So a lot of the older communication protocols are serial, and those are going away. You don't see them nearly as much anymore. And so the need for more IT understanding on the OT side, especially nowadays. So we're interacting with IT departments way more than we were when I first started, which was about 10 years ago, a little more than 10 years.
So sorry, Casey.
OT wasn't even a thing. It was just controls or the control systems, right? It was just more of like a technical level type things where IT and OT never really kind of crossed. And now, to Casey's point, we're married. Right? We're
on tons of calls.
We're completely blended together. We have, obviously, case in point, right? E-Tech Group, a traditional automation and controls company. Now we have our own OT group, OT IT group, cybersecurity group. 10 years ago, companies weren't doing that, right? And now they are. Now we are. Now we're investing in it. We're building a team around it because we understand the importance of having that as an arm for your business.
Yeah.
And Jack, I'll give you a plug. There's probably a podcast episode on that.
There is with Eric. Thank you. You set me right up. It's also already out. It came out in November, so guys can go back and check that one out too. So I have one more question before we get to our fun questions. What is one advancement or trend that you're kind of most excited to see where it goes in the next year or couple of years? Casey, you want to take this one first?
Sure. I touched on it a little bit already, but digital twins. Just some of the stuff I've seen out there is pretty impressive. And I think it's just I think it's just that entry to market. So as soon as we're able to make these digital twins cheaper, faster, I think it's just a matter of time right before. Every manufacturer out there has a digital twin. It makes so much sense to be able to do that. And in the future with AI, layering AI on there to be able to simulate any changes you want to make to the line to see how that's going to affect it before you actually invest any money into the physical architecture out there. I think that's the future. And I'm excited to see where that goes over the next few years.
Yeah. What about you, Randy?
It's funny you brought that up. I was talking with both my sons, Xavier and Zach, about, because they're both in automation and controls. So talking to them about where do I see the future of a controls engineer in the next 5 to even 10 years, right? And my explanation to them was, look, I remember back when I was writing code in DOS, right? And then seeing that convert from DOS into Windows and then start using software like, RSLogix, 500, 5000, Studio 5000, Rockwell products, and then seeing the evolution of that to now we have AI and we have these new products where I don't think I have to sit there anymore and write ladder logic. I can write some prompts and create some ladder logic and then take that. So instead of sitting there trying to do mundane things that I could have spent hours and days and weeks doing, I can now do in seconds and then test it, get it ready to go. I know there's still more we have to do in that area to understand it a little bit better and get better at it. But I see the future, right, as a controls engineer is going to change, right? I think we're going to be doing a lot different things that we were doing in the past. So I look forward to seeing what that's going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is exciting. I think, yeah, we're not immune from kind of figuring out the best ways to utilize AI and to make our jobs more effective, more impactful. So now I'm going to move on to what I think are the fun closing questions of the podcast. So this has become one of my favorite questions, but if you could automate one thing in your life, what would it be? I stumped you.
Well, I have a lot of automated stuff at home.
So you already are.
So,
you have it. Maybe you're ahead of the game. I have
yeah,
it. I have an answer. Mine is laundry.
Oh, laundry. I know. I was thinking like household chores, right? And then my mind went to like pipeline cleanup, right? Like how do you automate that stuff?
Wish I had a car wash in my garage where I parked my car and it just washed itself.
My husband works at a car wash. He's the general manager for it. So
cool.
I almost have that. It's not in my house, but he has a clean car.
I mean, automated driving, right? I mean, I know Tesla's got the I don't have a Tesla, so I don't know how good it is, but I spend a lot of time on the road. It'd be nice if, you're able to work, right, and not have to drive, so that'd be nice.
Yeah. Matt Wise's answer was someone to automate his like travel planning and scheduling, which I think would also include automated driving to the airport. Okay, this is one of my other favorite questions is how would you describe your job to a 5-year-old?
It's funny. I always bring up my kid, I've always grown up on the History Channel. So they've always been watching like how it's made, right? So they see how different things are made. And so typically I'll ask someone, have you ever seen how it's made? And if they say yes, I said, that's what I do. Right? So it's a show on how things are produced or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, so that's kind of my starting point. And then I talk about, what we do specifically. But to a 5-year-old, I'd probably just say we make the brains for machines to do what they do.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
That's what I was going to say. Go to the brains. Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm curious what ChatGPT would say.
I don't, you know what?
That a lot where I'm like, how do I explain this to a child? I use it more for that.
I have one final question is what would you like to see us cover on future episodes of Beyond Tech?
So you had a lot of plugs in here.
I did.
So I think you covered a lot of the stuff that I probably would have recommended. Maybe something around, have you done anything around vision systems?
We have not yet, actually, and no one has even suggested that yet. So you get a point.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity
for sure
for a lot of customers out there to implement vision systems, like the one example I gave, and it can have some real impact on someone's business.
Yeah, another thing I would say is MES, if we haven't done one yet, and how has eTech used MES, implemented it, and what has it led to, right? What has it done for the business, for the customer's business?
Yeah, we have not done either of those episodes yet, so those are both great ideas. But that is all the questions I have. So I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with me for a little bit today. Yeah, well, hopefully we'll let you know when the episode comes out.
Right. Thanks,
awesome. All right, thank you, Jackie.